Hi everyone, Dylan from Eurospares here. The premise today is this: I hate SUVs. I cannot stand them. I don't like being in them. I don't like driving them. I will never own one. They just don't make sense to me. Give me an estate every day of the week. I'd rather have an RS6 or an M3 or M5 Touring or even like a Volkswagen R36. I mean, who remembers them, right? Really cool cars. So on paper, I should hate this thing, but I love the Lusso and I love the FF. So the question then becomes, is the Purosangue more similar to the super SUVs that it competes against, or is it more similar to the V12 shooting brakes that it replaces? I think we should go take it for a drive and find out. So we've had the car now for kind of 3 or 4 months, and I think we nailed the spec. It's finished in Verde Zeltweg, which is this incredible kind of rich green that looks black in dull light, but when the light hits it, it becomes this like really rich emerald green. And some of you may actually recognize it from when Ollie Behrman signed with Haas, because we lent it to him to smoke around in for the week while he was here for Silverstone. And I mean, James uses this car every day, near enough. And I can see why. I mean, the interior is a lovely, lovely place to be. It's super, super airy with the pan roof. The architecture's lovely. The trim work is incredible. I mean, I think Ferrari just nailed the interior. However, the one thing that I absolutely despise is the steering wheel. I genuinely think it might be less complicated to launch the space shuttle than it is to put the radio on in this thing. It's just ridiculously difficult. However, in terms of usability, I mean, I'm in 8th gear, cruising around at 50 miles an hour. It's super, super quiet. Like, you could genuinely cruise across a continent in this thing. It is so, so comfortable. But then you start pushing it. Now, a lot of super SUVs are very torquey and very fast low down, and that's nothing new. But the way this behaves is just completely different. I mean, the most impressive part, right, let me slow down a little bit, is the way it builds acceleration through the rev range. When you get to 5,500, it's like it finds another 100 horsepower from somewhere. It's just nuts. And in fact, the engine accelerates so quickly that it's actually really easy to miss a shift. Like, I thought the idea of an LED gear shift indicator in an SUV was absolutely laughable, but it turns out not only is it appropriate, it's actually completely necessary. And then there's the sound. God, that thing sounds so good. Okay, I'm gonna slow down a little bit. Wow. The fact that this has a V12 makes it a different echelon of car to any of the competition. And I wasn't expecting much, I'll be really honest with you. I am a complete exhaust snob. I've literally made a living from modifying supercar exhausts. And this has a GPF, it's a bit of a compromised version of that amazing V12. But the God's honest truth, it sounds really good. Don't get me wrong, it could do with an exhaust, and if I get my way, we'll put one on. But it is really impressive for what it is. And, you know, let's compare it to the Pista. The Pista that we've got has a D-Cat Klein exhaust, and it sounds good, but this just sounds a million times better. Now, in terms of things that I don't like, it's a short list, I'll be honest with you, but it is too wide. The car is simply too wide. It turns single track lanes in the countryside into being about as terrifying as I imagine a nighttime aircraft carrier landing in an F-14 would be. Think kind of opening scene of Top Gun, and you get an idea of how scary this thing is. And, you know, to add kind of insult to injury, we've actually clipped that wing mirror, I think 3 times now. But luckily we had the glass in stock, so kind of no harm, no foul. But you're definitely aware that this is a very large car. And then the other thing is, you sit really high up. There was a lot of talk about, oh, you know, oh, it's not as big as I thought it was going to be. From the outside, yeah, maybe. But, you know, you definitely feel like you are sitting super high up. Compared to the Pista, It's like being on the top deck of a kind of double-decker bus. And to be honest with you, the form factor is kind of both its biggest drawback, but then also its kind of most impressive quality. The fact that something that is this size is able to behave the way that it does is actually just mind-bending. I can't comprehend the way that you're able to throw this thing around corners and the way you can throw the brakes on it and it just stops instantly. It's crazy. And I'm not the first person to say this, but it is genuinely the truth. And I think anybody who has driven an 812 and a Purosangue will agree, this just feels like an 812 on stilts. It's like an 812, but you're 1.5 feet higher. It's incredible. And then there's the competition, of which I think there are kind of two main streams. The first is the kind of super SUV, so think Urus, RSQA, Cayenne Turbo GT, DBX, that kind of thing. But this is just, it's just not in the same bracket. You don't wake up on a Sunday morning and go, yeah, let's take out the RSQ8 for a blast. Whereas you could very easily wake up on a Sunday morning, take this thing out for an absolute hoon, and it would put a smile on your face, and it would give you a couple of hair-raising moments. It's all the car you could ever need. And I also think that it's substantially better looking than the competition as well. And I can kind of prove that a little bit because I've had multiple friends of mine who are not car people send me pictures of various Purosangues saying, hey dude, what car is this? Because it's kind of understated but striking at the same time. It's a really beautiful piece of design. And if you haven't seen one in the flesh, I'd make your mind up once you'd seen it, put it that way, because I wasn't convinced, but once I saw it for real, my mind was completely made up. The one thing that we do have to say, because it is a fair point, is that this is significantly more expensive than the competition, but I think that it's more car than the competition. And then the second stream of competition is obviously the FF and the Lusso, cars which I love dearly. They're amazing cars, and it's so cool being able to have a V12 Ferrari that you can fit 4 adults in and use practically every single day. But this is even sportier than either of the other two ever were, and that's what's so impressive. This is supposed to be the SUV, but it's more sports car than the shooting brakes that it replaces, which is an incredible, incredible achievement. So what's the conclusion? Well, I love it. I love it. It is one of the most surprising, weird, impressive cars I've ever had the pleasure of driving. It's incredible. And you know, the fact that it has the V12 sets it apart from the competition in such a way as they're not even really competitors anymore. I don't see the Purosangue as an Urus competitor, as a Turbo GT, RSQA, DBX, any of them. It's just not playing the same game. This is truly, in every way, a replacement for the FF and the Lusso. But somehow Ferrari has managed to make their SUV sportier than either of those. It's mind-blowing. And I came into this genuinely not excited. It wasn't something that interested me. I thought the whole it's an FUV was just marketing gibberish, but it's the truth. This is no SUV. This is an out and out red-blooded Ferrari sports car for the ages. And I never thought that I would say this when they announced it, but I'm actively glad that they made it. Thank you very much for watching. You can check out some other videos over here and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much.